All right, good evening. This is the Dominus Academy. I'm your host, Mr. Justin. And this evening, gonna do another tips video. I'm in a mood to do how-tos and shit like that. If you caught me earlier today, on the Manhood is a Skill Set show, I apologize for my mic being really hot. I don't know what the hell was going on because my settings hadn't changed. It was both StreamYard and my videos come in just fine. But for some reason, that shit was crazy. Like, I don't know, maybe my gain was turned up too high, but things were really, really distorted. So my apologies. So yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about 10 core concepts to be good in bed. All right. And it's pretty straightforward, but the thing is, the big difference between usually being good and not good is doing the things that you want to do. And what really stops guys up, what prevents them from actually being good, is worrying about if they're going to be good. Like, worrying that you're going to be good or not is one of the biggest things preventing you from actually being good. Because what that does is does two things. One, it turns you into a bit of a performer. And two, it takes you away from the present moment. So you'll have your mind that's in the sexual act, but then part of your mind is also outside of that, observing things, making sure everything's all right. And this is just not going to work. This doesn't make for a good lover because you're not present. Okay. So first and foremost, you must be present, right? You can't have part of your mind cut off from everything else and you're sitting there worrying about whether she's liking it or not. All right. Like, if she's not liking something, she's either going to speak up, or you can read her body language and she's not going to be responding to you very well. That's all she's got to do. And you just read that and change things up. But anyways, so number one on here is expressing raw lust. This is, and so this ties into the freedom aspect, right? Just like expressing yourself. But this also reflects in a woman's fantasy. You see, because part of a woman having good sex is her experiencing what is close to the shit that happens in her head. Excuse me. And sometimes those things are spot on, right? Like it's straight up something that she dreams about, or it's something similar. Okay. And this is largely what drives women's arousal, right? Is the shit that goes on in their head. So, expressing raw lust in their mind, right? In some of their fantasies, or actually I'd probably say like the majority of their fantasies, has to do with a man that is just so fucking passionate about touching her, biting her, grabbing her, fucking her, smelling her, tasting her, hearing her, everything. And he's just overtaken with this desire to consume her. Okay? This is one of the things that drives women wild. It's something that is in almost all of their fantasies, where they're taken, right? They're possessed. And it's not possessed by like any sort of logical or reasonable action in words. It's not through that. It's not through the mind. It's through the balls. It's through the gut. Okay. So number one is expressing raw lust. Okay. Number two, it ties into that, right? And this is manhandling. All right. Women also have a lot of fantasies, and a lot of experiences that they enjoy about being manhandled, right? And by manhandling, what I mean is grabbing their body and moving them into different positions, either like maybe throwing them on the bed, flipping them over, pushing them against the wall, grabbing their face, pulling them into you, pushing them away from you, whatever it is. Okay. It's just using your strength as a man to move her around. Okay. Now, if you're into really big women, and no knock on anybody who likes big women, but it's gonna be tough to do that. I mean, unless you're a strength athlete and you've got a lot of raw strength, that's gonna be really hard. But the funny thing is that like even those women, like the larger women, they fantasize about being tossed around like a little toy, right? Just like the medium-sized and petite women. Okay, so manhandling, right? And you can't, like, again, all of these things have to incorporate being present. You have to be present. Like if you're sitting there wondering, gosh, is it going to be okay if I like pick her up and like throw her on the couch, right? Is that going to be all right? Is that going to be offensive? Is she going to have something to say? Or like, what if this happens? What if she says this? It's going to fuck up the whole thing, okay? Because the man in her fantasies never second guesses himself. All right. So not that you should be meeting the things that are in her fantasies. You shouldn't, right? Like that shouldn't be part of your position or the way you're seeing these things. It's just for your understanding. Okay. So you shouldn't be trying to meet her fantasies. That's not your job. Okay. Maybe until you get into a long-term relationship and you're having a lot of sex and you're experimenting, and then you get to have talks about like, hey, like, what are you into? What do you fantasize about? And it's really not to like recreate these things. It's more so to get a feel for her style of eroticism. But you'll find that, and with many women, force is part of that. Okay. The number one fantasy amongst women is CNC. Right? Or let's just say forced lovemaking, forced sex, right? Starts with the R word. That is the number one fantasy amongst women, right? Of just passionately being taken, right? And like he wants her so much that he has no awareness for like manners or like what's right and wrong, just like a beast, okay? And if you look into the classic romance novels, okay, the 5 archetypes, and Jordan Peterson talked about this. The 5 main archetypes in all these stories is the it's the surgeon, the billionaire, a pirate, a vampire, and a werewolf, right? So if you look at 2 of those, well, maybe 3, but like the vampire and the werewolf, possibly the pirate, these are the types of beings or creatures that just take what they want. They don't ask questions. They don't ask for permission or anything like that. They just go in and they take it. All right. Now, this isn't to violate anyone's boundaries of consent. Obviously this is done around, say, someone that you are comfortable with and that there is a general understanding between the two of you. So, and the more trust and the more understanding there is, the farther you can take these things. Okay. So number 3 here is making her feel small with teasing. Okay. Teasing, but also a certain type of praise. Okay. And the teasing, like the energy behind it is kind of like, pulling the girl's pigtails in school. Okay. That's kind of like what that's like. Let me see what happened to my shit. All right, there we go. Wasn't looping. So teasing her and making her feel small, that's something that also women have. And I said this on today's stream earlier today, that every woman, no matter how old she is, she has a little girl inside her. Okay. And that little girl gets like a charge of energy from being teased, from being made fun of, for like being like sort of embarrassed or embarrassed a little bit. And this can come in the way of the various phrases and words that you use, to draw attention to her being sexual. Okay. And, maybe like telling her like how cute she looks with your dick in her mouth, right? Like something along those lines. But teasing can be a whole wide range, right? It just depends on like your personality as well. Like if you have that sort of teasing character about you, you can utilize this a lot in the bedroom. And the types of praise that you use kind of go around the whole like good girl sort of thing, okay? Because that's something that an older person would tell a young woman or a girl, right? And it goes a long way in the bedroom because they do have that young spirit inside them. No matter how old they get, it all lives inside them, like until they die. It's just this little girl that's like innocent and likes to have fun and gets embarrassed easily. So if you do one of these things and she's blushing, now draw attention to the fact that she's blushing. Okay. And that will make her blush even more. Okay. So like those sort of words, that kind of feel, bring that in. Okay. Now the teasing can, and like embarrassment can take a step further into, another area, right? Which is using degrading language. Okay. Now everybody has their limits around this. Okay. For example, like, my girl, I can call her like a dumb cock hungry whore. Right. And she has no problem with that. But for some reason, she doesn't like the word stupid. So if I called it a stupid cock hungry whore, she would get like, it would touch a pain point, right? And it would just kill the mood. Okay. So it's knowing these sort of things that kind of allow you to understand like what pathways in terms of communication that you should take. All right. But degradation can go from very light to extremely harsh. It just depends on what you're comfortable with and what she's comfortable with, what turns her on. Okay. And it doesn't mean that like you should figure this stuff out beforehand. Just try it. It's just words. You know what I'm saying? You're not like really harming someone. Okay. And if she doesn't like it, she's, like I said, she's either going to let you know or her body language is going to let you know. Okay. So number 4 for becoming good in bed, tease and denial. All right. In the library, I just made like a whole, for library for my students, I just made like a whole video about the details of how to go about tease and denial, right? It's something called, what's it called? Coquettishness. Okay. A coquette is a type of flirt that gives you a little bit and then takes it away. It gives you a little bit and takes it away. And you can do this a lot in the bedroom. All right. As the arousal slope is going up, you can go, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And so you can give her what she wants and then take it away momentarily. All right. Or for a long while. All right. So, really simple examples would be like you're making out with her and then you stop, like you stop kissing her. Right. And she's going to be wondering like, what the hell is going on? You know what I mean? And like you change and do something else. Another, let's say like more imaginative example would be you're messing around, you're a lot of like, hand play, mouth kissing, tongues, all this stuff. And you're getting her super turned on. You get her onto the bed, strap her into the bed with, like your system or your ropes or whatever. And she's spread eagled on the bed with like, her ankles and her wrist bound. And she's super turned on. You're getting some toys out and she's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. And then you give her a kiss on the forehead and say, I'm going to go take a shower. And she's going to be like, what the fuck is going on? Right? And this is going to turn into like so many emotions layered on top of one another. Okay. And then when you come back, there's going to be a layer of emotions, right? Like she's going to be frustrated. She might be a little bit angry. And you can use this newfound energy and turn it into something else. Okay. So the tease and denial, the coquettishness, there's a lot you can do there. So many things that you can do by giving and taking away, teasing, right? This goes into like not letting her come, all right? By feeling her out. Like, let's see, you've got like a vibrator or something like that, and you can tell she's very, very close to orgasm, and then you drop it off just a little bit. Like you take the pressure off just a little bit and let her drop off just a little, and then bring her back up again, right? Otherwise known as edging, where she gets very close and you drop off, get very close and drop off. And you can do this over and over and over, and it just intensifies every single time you do it. Okay. And then you can add pressure to this, right? Like by, telling her to ask you if she can release, right? If she can have an orgasm. So you're like sitting there edging, and you say, ask me to come, right? And you keep doing that over and over and over, right? And she's getting frustrated, and maybe she'll get more emotional, right? Maybe start begging you, right? Because it's becoming torturous, all right? So there's a lot you can do there with tease and denial. Use your imagination, okay? It gets pretty deep. You can go into psychological things, by doing like double binds. Basically, double binds are where woman is like damned if she does, damned if she doesn't, and she's got to choose between two things that are undesirable, or making her think like mind fucking. So mind fucking is basically making her think something is going to happen, but that thing doesn't happen. Okay. And, so you're raising up anticipation, and then it just goes poof. And either it just goes away or it shifts into something else. Okay. Like a common one is, at least with BDSM play is, let's say she's tied up or something like that. There's a lot of arousal, and you pull out a knife, right? And she thinks, maybe with your words as well, that she thinks that you're going to be using this on her body, okay? And then you put a blindfold on her, and you put your sharp knife off to the side, okay? And you grab a little butter knife, right? Like the kind of butter knife that has no ridges on it. It's like smooth all the way around. And you start moving that along her body. So in her mind, you have this very sharp blade on her body, but there's no way in hell she's actually getting cut. Okay. So this is where you're fucking with her mind. So this is also a form of teasing, right? Because you're now teasing her psychology. Okay. So that was number 4. Number 5, telling her erotic scene clips during foreplay / dirty talk. Okay. So during foreplay, you can start talking to her about things that you're going to do. Right. So you like just what I just described, like the tying to the bed, the knife play, the whatever, like anything that you have in mind, things that you're into, your kinks, your favorite things, stuff you want to try, your curiosities, whatever. You start painting pictures in her mind. All right. While you're physically getting her aroused. Okay. So now what you're doing is you're sort of converging these things. You're converging the physical arousal with the things that you're telling her, right? So in her imagination, like it's kind of hard to control one's imagination, especially when their emotions and their arousal are involved. Okay, so it's that sort of thing. If I say, do not think of a purple elephant, right? For most people, it's like the first thing you do is think of a purple elephant. Okay, and the more I describe it, and I start adding detail to what I'm talking about, like it has wrinkles and little hairs all over it, and maybe like little red warts or randomly along its back, and its trunk is not very long. It's like actually kind of shorter than your average elephant trunk, and so are its ears. Most elephants have very large ears. These actually have very small ears. And this purple elephant with the red spots and the little hairs all over it with the wrinkly knees. So this is basically what happens. So you can utilize and take advantage of that natural function of the brain. Okay. All the while, excuse me, All the while, you're converging that with her emotions and the arousal, the physical arousal. Very powerful, right? Because it's just going to supercharge her eroticism in that moment. All right, number 6, being unafraid to use the degradation. Okay, so this goes into more of a core concept rather than exactly something that you do. So, anytime that you're going against your natural conditioning, okay, because us as guys, we're conditioned by society, by our families, by school, by, culture, your whatever, okay, your upbringing is like, don't talk bad to women, okay? And it's kind of funny because it's the exact opposite of what they love in the bedroom, right? It really is, especially if you combine it with possessive language, okay? So there's a big difference between, you're a cock hungry slut and you're my cock hungry slut, right? So there's a difference in the feeling. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, because they both carry a certain type of emotional charge, okay? And truth be told, sometimes women want to feel like an object, like that she is your toy and that you're just using her, okay? There are times when women love that feeling, all right? And there are other times when they like that possessive language, the feeling that comes from the possessive language, where you are hers. I'm sorry, she is yours, that she belongs to you, okay? And that has a totally different emotion, all right? And so when you use the possessive language, it's helpful when you use the language that makes her feel small, okay? So I hope you can see that connection of making her feel small and possessed, okay? And then at the same time, you can work in that embarrassment that comes with the feeling small and work in some degradation, right? And again, like everybody has their limits when it comes to degradation. Some people, it doesn't bother them at all because they know it's fake, right? They know it's part of play. And then others are just a lot more sensitive to it. But the point is with this number 6 is being unafraid to use them, all right? Just trust your gut and just go, right? Just do it, right? What's the worst that's going to happen? She's going to say, oh, I don't like that. Like that word's a turn off, or like that doesn't sound right to me, or whatever. Like who cares? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. You're there to have fun, right? That's what this is about. It's about having fun in the bedroom. So when I think that's completely lost amongst a lot of people, right? They take this shit way too seriously and they forget that this is a game. Like sex is a game. It's a game of power, actually. But what I think that you really need to do is have that betting on oneself attitude when it comes to this stuff. And that will allow all of these things to work together best, okay? Is when you just say, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just doing this, all right? And if things blow up in your face, whatever. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You're not doing anything like really dangerous, okay? If you are, then you need to communicate about that, right? And that's why in BDSM, there's so much communication, right? Because we sometimes, depending on your lifestyle, play with things that are really dangerous or potentially dangerous. So we have to talk about these things. But just using types of language, a bit of manhandling, right? Like getting in her head, there's not a whole lot of danger involved in that. So you can just go for it, right? And if it turns out to be something she doesn't like, well, then it's something she doesn't like. And she's entitled to speak up on it. Now, she might not say anything, and her body language will tell you that this isn't erotic for her, okay? And a lot of women are like this, all right? They don't like to hurt feelings, so they don't say shit, okay? but she doesn't call you again. And that's okay too, right? It's totally fine. Like, she's entitled to not like your sex. She's entitled to not enjoy everything that you do. And so she might just not call you back, right? And that's all right. Just let it go. It doesn't matter, okay? What does matter more is that you bet on yourself and then you just went forward and did something that you wanted to do, okay? Just be mindful. Don't be a fucking moron. Don't, basically have the attitude that you can solve everything with a hammer, all right? Okay, so number 7, encourage her to express herself during sex, all right? So it's one thing to say you're a cock-hungry slut, and it's a completely other thing to make her say it herself, right? So you're sitting there, you're highly passionate, very high eroticism, right? Arousal is really high, or you're fucking her really hard, okay? And you're at that good rhythm, right? And you tell her, you command her to say, I'm a cock-hungry slut, right? She's going to feel fucking embarrassed, right? Or she's not, because she's so in the throes of whatever the fuck is going on that she's just right in it with you. Like, yes, I fucking am, right? Because in that moment, that's exactly how she feels, right? Tell her she loves this. Like, instruct her to say, I love this, right? Instruct her to say, whatever it is you want, right? Make her say these things, right? Because it's the feeling behind these things. She's already with the feeling. She's already with the feeling that's imbued into these statements. Okay, the feeling that's behind the statements. Okay, and then by you instructing her to speak on them, it adds another emotion, which just intensifies the whole thing. Okay, remember that it's all about mental, right? It's not about the stroke, right? Of course, the physical things can't be totally off base, okay? But 85 to 90% of it is all mental. It's all the shit that's going on in her head, okay? So you could have, say, regular fucking, but then inject strong psychological influence, strong emotional influence, strong verbal influence, and it takes that regular fucking and it puts it through the roof, okay? And you could have what visually maybe might be considered good fucking, okay? But the guy is totally silent. And trust me, women complain about this all the time. They say, man, I wish he was more vocal. I wish even just a sound would come out of his mouth, except at the very end when he has an orgasm and he makes that little grunting noise or whatever the fuck he says, or, oh, I'm coming, right? And that's like the only thing he ever says, the only sound that ever comes out of his mouth. Or like, ooh, shit, yeah, right? Like some dumb fucking shit that you hear in porn, all right? And he sounds like he learned it from watching porn, okay? And that's the thing that's wrong with porn. They never show you the psychological aspects. They never show you the mental things and the verbal things that can go down. Sometimes you'll see it in some BDSM porn clips. Okay, sometimes, all right? But not often. There's a couple of guys, like a couple of pro doms, who they use words a lot. And you can see how they direct the girl, okay, into certain states of mind. And that's basically what you're doing. You're just a conductor, conducting things to bring her mind into a certain state. That's the whole point of communication. And women are ready for this. Their minds are so susceptible to this, extremely susceptible to this, and they want it. But most of you guys are dead silent. And you're missing like a whole fucking universe worth of potential. Okay? Just because either you're not comfortable, or you don't know what to say, or you're in your head too much, or you're worried about sounding dumb, or whatever it is, okay? Or you're worried about offending her. All of that makes you shitty, okay? Because you're silent. One of the biggest things you can do is communicate, right? Notice I've not said much about anything physical here. Most of this is non-physical. Okay, moving on. So number 7 is encouraging her to express herself verbally in bed. Okay. Number 8. So this only comes about in certain types of women. Okay. And number 8 is to match her shit test, her brattiness, and her pride if she displays it. Okay. Now some women are like this. They have this bratty, so, all right. So in BDSM, they kind of break it down pretty simply, and that a brat is a type of submissive. Okay. It's just, they don't like to just willingly go to their knees, like metaphorically or physically go to their knees. They want to be brought to their knees. Okay. They want to be shown a reason why they should, not just because you tell them to. Okay. Like they're like no, or they say make me, or some other sort of like just snotty remark, okay, that says, yeah, I can, and yeah, I want to, but I don't want to make it that easy because easy's boring, right? And so they'll do all kinds of shit to kind of see how you respond. And it's really up to you on how you're going to deal with that, because one avenue, if she's like, let's just say you say, get on your knees, and she's like, no, make me. All right. One avenue is if you go down that road and you play her game, then she's basically leading the interaction. Okay. Because now you're taking the bait and you're rolling into it. Now, if you understand that it's bait, you know what's going to happen, and the outcome is going to be fun, then why the fuck not? Okay. So that's one avenue. The other avenue is you're like, I see that fucking trickery bullshit, and you know what? I'm not going to play your fucking game. Instead, I'm going to make you stand in the fucking corner, right? While I go take a shower. Whatever that is, okay? So you can either play into the bratting, right? Her shit test or whatever, and play along, even though you know it's just a ruse to kind of add some spark to the situation. Or you can completely deny it and don't engage with it at all, right? And you're basically saying, I see your bullshit, and that can go fucking take a long walk off of a short pier, okay? I don't give a shit, all right? So it really depends on your personality type, and because there are types of doms out there who are what we call brat tamers, and they just totally get off on the idea of having that playful, slightly friction-filled energy from the woman and taming her and breaking her spirit, right? And there's women who love to have their spirit broken, whereas other doms, they're like shaking their head at this, like, God, like that is just so annoying. I don't want to deal with friction. That's not the type of woman or the type of submissive that I want to interact with. And so therefore they don't. They completely ignore them. Okay? And like, yeah, that's just a waste of time for me. And that's quite all right. All right? So, but not all women are going to do this. Okay? They're not going to present this playful resistance. Okay? But if they do, they're watching you. They're measuring you to see how you handle them. Okay? And if you're a bitch, then they're going to be like, ugh, and their pussy dries up. Right? Because that's just what the type of person they are, this kind of time they're on. Okay, so that was number 8. Man, tonight is one of those nights when, I don't even smoke weed, but like I've got weird cotton mouth for some reason. But anyways, so number 9. If she's the type of person who's into friction, okay, it's a willingness to fight or wrestle, okay? And there's a number of girls, I wouldn't say many, but there's a number of girls who like to do this, right? They like to physically exert themselves in the form of wrestling or fighting, okay? And a lot of times, if they've got a bratty streak in them, all right, where they need to feel like they're put in their place and that really turns them on, then the fighting aspect is sometimes, or it's often mixed in there as well, okay, where they like to wrestle. And this ties into the manhandling, number 2. Okay, is that they want to feel like they've become overpowered. They become overpowered by your force. And they're like, yeah, that's what I wanted to feel. Okay. I don't want to be just like told what to do. I want to physically be made what to do. All right. And there's a lot of girls who are like this. They want to feel your physical force. Okay. And, again, like I mentioned in the beginning, how it really goes against a lot of the stuff that guys have been conditioned with, that they're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. I could never just like grab a woman by her hair and just like throw her onto the bed, right? Or like drag her to the floor and make her kiss my feet. Like I just couldn't do that. Like, it conflicts with their core values and makes them feel extremely uncomfortable. All right. And to that, I would just say what you think is right is generally right. But when you get into it, when we start dealing with fantasies and eroticism and arousal, when it comes to women, a lot of them just fucking throw all that shit out the window. They throw it out the window. Like I said, for most women, their number one fantasy is to be overpowered by a man. And it goes even further into one of the most popular fantasies is a werewolf taking her and just using her, consuming her, like sexually and then maybe physically afterwards, and just turns her into a meal. Right? And like that would be something that the woman is masturbating to. Okay. Like this shit's real. Okay. So, but again, like a lot of this stuff, it can't happen unless there's 2 types of trust involved. Okay. One is the trust, obviously, that she has in you, but it's the second kind is the trust that you have in yourself. Okay. There's nothing, well, yeah, there's plenty of things, but one of the scariest things is to be in proximity with someone where you're sharing an experience or doing something with them and you get this strong sense of self-doubt, right? I don't know if you've like played a team sport or something like that, or you've done something that involves danger, that involves like another person, like rock climbing, firearms training, martial arts. When you're with somebody who you can tell is really green and they're full of self-doubt and they're second guessing their actions, it makes you feel uneasy, right? And depending on what you're doing, that uneasiness can go very high. It can sometimes turn into fear. And so nobody likes to be in close proximity in sharing an experience with someone or a shared activity with someone who is full of self-doubt. It's terrible. And so if you have self-doubt, this woman is absolutely gonna fucking feel it, because that's what women are conditioned to do. That's one of their skills that they've developed as a human, right? Because they don't have the brute force and the muscle density and the bone density that we do as men. So they developed other things. They developed other skills to allow them to survive. And one of them is the ability to read people and to read situations. This is what women's like superpowers are. But what's funny is that same ability, right, to read situations is a huge fucking window that with your skill, your mental skill and your verbal skill, you can go through and alter her perception, alter her sense of self, alter her reality, alter her arousal, right? Change her psychology. So it's like like many times in like comics and things like that, their superpower is also the same thing that's like, or it's like linked to their weakness, right? And so it's the same sort of thing. Like the thing that gives them great power of this reading also allows them to be read very easily, or like read to, right? So they're very susceptible. It's like a portal. It's like a portal into emotions. So they can like read situations and feel them. But that portal, it's a two-way street. It's not just one way. So things can get in, right? And so I hope that makes sense to you guys. And so if you are uncertain, this is absolutely going to be felt by the woman, and it's going to close her up, right? Just like if you're around somebody who's uncertain, you're doing some kind of activity and you're like, you tighten up inside, your awareness shifts, and you're like, not only do you have to check your situation, but now you're watching them to make sure that they don't fuck up to compromise you or the situation, right? So now your attention is like split. You're right. You're not present. Okay. And she can't be present now because she's feeling your uncertainty, and now she's watching things. Okay. But I get it. It's sort of like a catch-22, because it's like, well, if I'm unexperienced, then of course I'm going to be, feeling self-conscious or full of doubt. Therefore I'm going to be watching myself, and then that's going to cause her to react to that. And so I get it. Like, I understand, like, how do you have, it's sort of like that thing with the job interviews where you're looking at the job description. It says like must have experience. And you're like, well, wait, how do I get the job if I don't have experience? If I need experience to get the job, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. So it's the same sort of thing. So you can't have that confidence unless you have experience, is what a lot of guys think. And it's really partially due to that. But the other part has to do with self-rejection. Okay. Like, you can be inexperienced and not have self-doubt, right? Where you're just like, I'm going to try this. I'm all in. Let's go. Right. And you have your own enthusiasm about it. Okay. Enthusiasm kills self-doubt. Right. So if you're enthusiastic, you have curiosity about the situation, you have willingness. All right. This is what kills self-doubt. Okay. It kills you being stuck in your head, right? And brings you more into your body where you're taking action. Okay. When you get more experienced, what actually happens is you then have the ability to not be present, so that you can step back partially, detach yourself slightly from the situation, so that you can then better conduct the scenario. Okay. And now you become this puppet master, and you're creating this whole scene. You're shifting the lighting, the sounds, the vibe, the mood, the music, her experiences, what she's hearing, what she's seeing, what she's feeling. Okay. And so now you're this puppet master controlling the stage and everything. Okay. So that's the thing that happens with having experience. Okay. Is that you can be comfortable in not being present, but it doesn't mean you're in your head. That's not what that means. Okay. It just means that you're able to step back a little bit with your perception and your emotions. Right. And that's just better, gives you more control over the situation. Okay. So don't get on yourself if you don't have a lot of experience. Okay. That's fine. Like, we all started at some point having no experience in the bedroom. Okay. The idea is to not judge yourself about it, to stay on it, right? To just be like on yourself. Okay. And just not talk to yourself in that way, not have that self-doubt. Okay. Because again, they can feel it. And she'll be like, where are you? Like looking up at you and saying like, where are you? It's like, and women don't want to, they like, again, with that the first one on the list about being, the passionate lover. Okay. Expressing raw lust. Okay. That is from someone who is very present. They're not stuck up in their head. Like I said, in their fantasies, the guy is like laser focused on her. She is like the only thing happening. All right. That's how it's in her mind. Okay. You can decipher that and, psychoanalyze that bullshit. It doesn't really matter, but you can. But again, get out of your head. All right. So, number 9 was, willing to fight, wrestle, things of that nature. Number 10 is compliments and praise during sex. Okay. So this is the opposite of degradation. Okay. Now you can combine these things. Okay. They don't have to be sweet, but it's perfectly fine to tell her she looks beautiful. All right. Tell her that she looks so sexy or that she smells sexy. Right. It's perfectly fine to praise her, right? Say like she's sucking your dick and you tell her what a good job she's doing. Okay. They pet her hair. You know what I mean? Like it almost seems degrading, but it's not. Okay. Or belittling. Let's just say that. That's the word. That's the word that should be in there with the teasing and making her feel small is belittling. Okay. Like you're above her. But back to the compliments and praise. You want to do the opposite of belittling. Okay. That you're making her feel good, because trust and believe, unless the girl is a straight fucking whore and she has tons of experience, the girl is going to be in her head of whether she's doing a good job or not. Trust and believe. She is in her head. She's wondering if she looks sexy. She's wondering if she sounds good. She's wondering if she smells good. She's not going to be fully present, okay? Unless she's extremely experienced or she's very, very comfortable with herself, okay? Now, if you sleep with, say, older women, okay, say like 37 and older, right, or 38 and older, they're going to be more comfortable with themselves, okay? The younger you go into the mid-20s, early 20s, right, that is going to be more insecurity, which means she's going to be even more in her head because she's not really comfortable with herself. Her ego might show this to the world that she's comfortable with herself, but that's really not the truth of the matter, okay? She might portray that she's very comfortable and that she's very much full of pride or what have you, but that's not the case. Extremely insecure, okay? She looks in the mirror and just sees flaws. She doesn't see love. She doesn't see respect. She doesn't see admiration. She sees flaws. All of them. Okay? Unless they've done a lot of self-work or they've just lived enough life to eventually learn to accept themselves. Okay? So, my woman, she's not in her 20s, but she's, lived life enough to become very comfortable with herself. And so she doesn't have this. She doesn't have this this self-doubt. She doesn't have the self-criticism or wondering, how do I look while I'm having sex? She knows she looks like total fucking cracked out retard when she's fucking. And she's okay with that. All right. And, and sometimes I'll tease her about it, right? Like in the middle of things and telling her that she looks like a cracked out retard. So yeah, back to compliments and praise. The thing that's really fun, right? And so this is like an added bonus here with the compliments and praise, is that it's fun if you do these things, right? The compliments and praise while you're doing something physically not so praise-like, okay? So, I don't know, like let's say she's like, throating you and you're spitting on her face, but your words are full of affirming, caring, love, sensual, beautiful, praise type language. Okay. So the words are nice, but the actions are not so nice. Okay. Or you flip this, you flip it around. So your words are full of nastiness, degradation, and belittling. Okay. But your actions are sultry, love-making, sensual sort of behaviors. Okay. So you're flipping these things. Okay. I call them intent switching. So your intent is not matching up with the physical that you're doing. Now, of course, there's the other pathway where you just match them up. Okay. So the words match the action, the dirty words with the dirty action, the clean words with the clean action, but you can mix them up, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun when you mix things up. So there you have it. All right. Those are 10 tips. And again, like I said, this stuff isn't, you probably thought that, based on the title, these are like things you can do, right? And it's really just something about yourself. That's what all of this stuff is. Being a good lover is actually being more in tune with yourself, trusting yourself, understanding the things you like, and just doing them. Okay? And the more you trust yourself, the more comfortable she's going to be. That's really what it comes down to. It's not like, oh, move your hands like this and your hips like this and use this position or whatever. If you've got this stuff down, these 10 things, plus trusting yourself and getting rid of self-doubt in the bedroom, you don't need crazy shit to do. You don't. Because that will allow her to be so comfortable with you that you don't have to do a whole fucking crazy smorgasbord of shit, right? You don't have to, unless you feel like it, all right? Unless you feel like incorporating that kind of fun, all right? But you could have like regular, vanilla, missionary sex, okay? But you include these 10 things, plus the ridding of self-doubt and trusting yourself, it will completely alter the woman's experience because you're owning your own experience. Right? You don't have it up on the table wondering what to do with it and basically kind of like silently asking her, is this okay with you? All right. Now I get that. Like, we don't want to hurt women. We don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want to hurt their bodies. I get that. Okay. It's part of our nature to protect women. And it's kind of weird when they're letting you know, or people like me are letting you know, that they like to endure a certain amount of erotic harm. It goes against what we're programmed, right? What's imbued within us as men. I get it. All right. But just, you have to trust yourself. Okay. Trust me. So, and if you don't believe me, like, I don't know, like go get an escort, go get a hooker where you can like have these frank conversations and do these things at the same time. Okay. A couple of my guys, if you can sort this out, it's the best. But, a couple of my guys have come across women who are very experienced. They're open-minded like crazy. They'll just try anything. And they're not emotionally wrapped up in the shit, right? And they meet once a week or so, and maybe twice. And they're just up for whatever. And they're like, and so my guys, I'm like, hey, take advantage of this while it's here. Don't sleep on this situation, okay? And I'm just like, let your imagination fly. Make a notebook, right? Take a notebook and start like dreaming up a bunch of shit that you want to try. And judged by her willingness and her open-mindedness, her willingness to experiment and have fun, that she's not going to turn this stuff down, okay? Like, as long as it's not like obscenely violent, okay, she's going to be into it. And that's, so these guys have that situation. There's a couple of guys who have this. And so if you can find this kind of fuck buddy who you're cool with, who's not looking to be your girlfriend, and you aren't the dumb fuck to fall in love with her, then you've got a really good thing going, okay? Because it allows you to experiment and, and get comfortable with yourself. So, all right. So just really quick, right? I'll go over these really fast. The 10, well, these are, there's probably more, but 10 core concepts beyond trusting yourself, right? That's number 0 is trusting yourself. Number 1, expressing raw lust. Number 2, manhandling. Number 3, making her feel small with teasing and belittling. Number 4, tease in denial or coquettishing or coquetting, right? Coquetting, which is giving and taking away. Number 5, telling her erotic scene clips during foreplay. Number 6, being unafraid to use degrading names or degrading terminology. Number 7, encouraging her to express herself during sex. Number 8, matching her shit test, bratting, or her pride if she displays it. Number 9, willing to fight or wrestle. And number 10, compliments and praise during sex. That's the thing I wanted to add about the compliments and praise. So just like the degrading and belittling language where you instruct her to say the things, right? Like telling her to say, I'm a dirty cock-hungry whore. You do the same thing with the praise and the affirmation. So while she's got heightened levels of arousal, you make her say that she's beautiful. Now, if you do this with a girl who's a fuck buddy, this could run you into some problems. Okay. But if this is a woman of your woman, okay, where you trust her, she trusts you, she's on your program and things are going well, you can then start altering the psychology while in these situations. You can make them say the praising words, okay, and like, I'm beautiful, I have worth, I have value, whatever sort of affirmations and things of that nature that vibe with what you guys are doing. This is incredibly powerful. All right. But I would say just my advice is utilize these things whilst in a relationship. Okay. So that's it. That's what I've got for you guys. The 10 key concepts to be really good in the bedroom. Just to let you guys know, I've got a new product on the website. It's a kit, right? So you go to the website, scroll all the way to the bottom, and in the kit is included my book. Okay, so you get both products for a single price. So check that out, and let me know how it is, right? So if you read the book and you go through the kit, write me a message, send me an email. I'd love to hear your reviews and your experiences with it. Okay, like always, if you want to engage in a call, get in touch with me, shoot me an email, or drop me a line on Instagram, thedominance.academy, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.